nervous, on the surface I look fine. My brain feels heavy, my traumatized mind. And I'm so tired, I can't feel my eyes. Whoa, whoa. I'm petty, but I know how to lie. I feel feelings that I can't describe. I'm not breathing, but I'm still alive. Whoa, whoa.
Shout out to Neoliberal Tears for this.
Shout out to Twitter/X user Neoliberal Tears for resurfacing this clip.
Neoliberal Tears commented at the top of the show, "What happened to my music?" One of my favorite commenters.
Yeah, big fan.
So much affection for me.
Keep it in mind.
I'ma give it everything I got.
Prepare for a holiday season of Neoliberal Tears.
Hello, welcome. I hope you're in the right place. I hope you're not lost or ended up here by mistake. In case you're wondering, I'm Neoliberal Tears. This is Nightcap with Neoliberal Tears. If you were expecting something else or someone else, you can feel free to leave. You are not being held here against your will. You can turn this off at any moment. Hillary, if you're listening to this for some reason, please turn this off. Move on to something else. Click whatever's next on the YouTube suggestions. You're not going to like today's topic. It's the Rohingya genocide that is ongoing and happening to this day in Myanmar, which is a country in Southeast Asia bordering Bangladesh. And I wanted to touch on it because there are a lot of parallels that I've been noticing, having done some reading and rereading about the ongoing Rohingya genocide in Myanmar, and them being a minority Muslim population, indigenous to Myanmar, and being denied citizenship in Myanmar because of their identity, despite being indigenous to Myanmar, being of the Muslim faith, and also the parallels that have to do with ethnic cleansing, denial of all sorts of rights within the Myanmar government. I felt like would be really interesting to explore, hopefully for people who may have not heard a lot about the genocide in Myanmar against the Rohingya population. I hope this is a little bit of, I hope that I'm able to provide a little bit of insight into it. So for those who may not be aware or not too familiar, I'll present just a little bit of facts. Not that I'm an expert, by the way, in any way. This is information you can look up on your own. Myanmar in 1982 passed a citizenship law, quote unquote, that specifically excluded the Rohingya population from being recognized as an ethnic minority, and as a result of that law, which was passed due to pressure from Buddhist ultranationalists, you may have not heard of that being a possibility, of Buddhists who are mostly nonviolent. Unfortunately, there is an ultranationalist sect. Sorry, my cats. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. So there has been an ultranationalist sect, ultranationalist Buddhist sect, in parts in Myanmar, unfortunately, and so ever since, the Rohingya people have been denied basic rights, the right to education, the right to move freely, because of their identity. So the genocide includes all forms of genocidal intent that we are familiar with, unfortunately: ethnic cleansing, trying to expel them off their land, in trying to move in Buddhist settlers into places where the Rohingya live, and then torch their property, set it on fire, so that they're sort of quote unquote incentivized to leave to Bangladesh, which is a Muslim majority population. All sorts of systemic discriminations, like, for example, the Myanmar government doesn't even recognize the term Rohingya. They are forcing the Rohingya people, indigenous to Myanmar again, they're forcing them to refer to themselves as Bengali in official registration, or else they're being threatened that they wouldn't be registered unless they referred to them as Bengali. So the Myanmar government is claiming, falsely, that the Rohingya population, which again is indigenous to Myanmar, the Myanmar government is arguing that they are actually Bengali migrants who moved into Myanmar illegally, and that's why they're being pushed into Bangladesh, ethnically cleansed to Bangladesh. That is, of course, false. The Rohingya population, as I'll keep saying, is indigenous to Myanmar and is denied rights by the Myanmar government due to their ethnicity and religion, and denied political power and all sorts of rights. The Rohingya people are, the only thing they're asking for is self-determination in Myanmar, which is their country of origin. The Myanmar government refuses. So that's where, that's a tiny little bit, and we're gonna hear a lot more about this genocide and sort of the historical facts that led to it happening in the first place. So yeah, let's actually play a little bit of that first.
Bangladesh's border guard was on the front lines as Rohingya refugees began fleeing Myanmar following the latest round of fighting in Rakhine State. After decades of persecution, a group of Rohingya insurgents formed the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, or ARSA. They say they're fighting for citizenship and basic rights. On August 25th, they launched a coordinated attack on multiple security outposts, killing 12 officers. Within hours, the military responded with a brutal crackdown. In so-called clearance operations, the military is accused of killing thousands of Rohingya, committing widespread rape, and burning down entire villages.
We have seen the villages burning very, very clearly. All these places were totally covered with smoke.
At the height of this crisis, how many people were crossing per day?
In one wave, there will be 10 to 15,000.
In a day?
In a day. They had to cross this river, but there were too many persons in one boat. So there were capsizing of the boats. We have to recover lots of dead bodies.
As hundreds of
And just say one thing, this tactic of setting total destruction that we're also seeing the United States and Israel carrying out in Lebanon, southern Lebanon, and then, of course, in the West Bank, that's been ongoing for decades. Israeli settlers torching the fields of Palestinian farmers. The idea behind that total destruction by fire, also in the case here, is the idea that if you take everything away from people, their livelihoods, their agricultural land, if you just destroy everything, they'd have no choice but to leave. It's a form of ethnic cleansing, or to quote unquote incentivize ethnic cleansing by total destruction. It's deliberate, it's intentional, and we see it over and over again in cases of genocide and ethnic cleansing.
thousands of Rohingya flee, Bangladesh has left their borders completely open. Many of those Rohingya are living in Kutupalong Extension Site, now the world's largest refugee camp.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize this, by the way, that Kutupalong is an area in Bangladesh that is now the largest refugee camp in the world.
This was one of the most densely populated places in the world, and just in the last few months, more than 650,000 Rohingya refugees have landed here.
The Rohingya have lived in Myanmar for centuries, but they're not officially recognized as one of the country's 135 ethnic groups. The government denies them citizenship and claims they're illegal immigrants that have crossed over from Bangladesh, making them essentially a stateless people.
And again, this is because of Burmese nationality law, quote unquote, that was enacted in 1982 due to pressure from Buddhist ultranationalists who wanted to exclude the Rohingya people from citizenship rights and political power. So they are excluded under that citizenship law from having the same rights as anyone else in Myanmar.
Alaikum. Ara Rohingya Zati. Ara Hokkan. Ara Dunyatun Sai.
Nearly everybody we spoke to had photos and videos on their phones documenting the atrocities that they say were committed against them by the military.
Oh my God. Who filmed this?
তারপরে ইনতি নমরদুন দর্জন দর্জন গর গলাই দর্জন দর্জন গর গলাই রেক গুরি রে গরফুরা গরফুরা দিবিলি মানুষ দলা করি আর উড়া দেবেলে দেবা আইও কল আর মা বলে না আর বাবা আর কানে কুলালে উড়া দেবেলে আর আই সঙ্গে দেখি দি দা গুরা গুরা বলে আর গুরা গুরা বলে আর আরাম ধরে বলা যেতে মার কুলো তুলে আর আই সঙ্গে দেখি দই মধ্যে দিলা দারা হেডার খানা মান নদী হেডাই হেডা তুলা আর হেডে মারি হলো
Since the violence broke out, the government has imposed a near media block.
So here you can see sort of just the geography of the area. So this is Myanmar. This is the Rakhine area, where most of the Rohingya people who are indigenous to Myanmar, that's mostly where they have been concentrated and living in. And this is the border with Bangladesh.
Blackout in Rakhine State. But a network of Rohingya bloggers are determined to find ways to get information out of Rakhine, though they face detention and arrest if they're caught inside Myanmar.
We're walking to meet a citizen journalist or blogger. He's one of the people who's been sneaking out videos and photos of what's happening, which is incredibly important for human rights organizations, but also for journalists like us who can't get access there. How is information, how are these videos and photos getting out?
We are a team inside the country. We are doing this work, collecting the brutalities against Rohingya. We share most of our videos, photos on WhatsApp.
So you have a WhatsApp group of different bloggers and journalists, and that's how you're getting the information.
Yeah. We have communication on the daily basis with the domestic and international news channels. The government now that we are doing this, they will kill us. So many people who are doing this work have been forcefully displaced.
What do you think happened to them?
They may be killed. Forcefully disappear mean killed in Myanmar.
What kinds of crimes are the Burmese military committing against the Rohingya people?
We have evidence, we have proof that Myanmar government is committing genocide against Rohingya. The Myanmar government and ultra-nationalist Buddhist hate Rohingya people due to nationalism, fueled racism, and Islamophobia.
While some Buddhist monks, like the infamous Ashin Werathu, are notorious for perpetuating hate speech against the Rohingya, it's the military that encourages those sentiments, in some cases denying Rohingya even exist.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on briefly when that journalist was saying that really part of what's fueling this genocide is the racism and Islamophobia. You know, we can see kind of the global trend of racism and Islamophobia against people of Muslim faith, and how it can sort of lead to these ultra-nationalist impulses to deny people rights, commit ethnic cleansing, and commit genocide. When you see racism and Islamophobia and all forms of bigotry, really, it's really important to sort of consider that it never stops there. It never just stops at being rhetorical. It usually leads somewhere, or the people who perpetrate racism, Islamophobia, any kind of bigotry, right? Against trans people, immigrants, all that stuff. The people who perpetuate it have an end goal in mind. And that goal is usually ethnic cleansing, deportation, or genocide. That's always the end goal of racists. So it's really important to nip that shit in the bud when you see it, when it has to be confronted, because it never ends at just rhetoric. It always is. It's always in service of a larger evil goal. And this person here, who I believe is from the Myanmar military, or the chief military officer in Myanmar, is saying here, in case you're listening to this, I would like to make sure the world knows there are no Rohingya in Myanmar. Also denying that groups of people exist. That's another form of racism and genocide propagation.
Even Aung San Suu Kyi, a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, has repeatedly defended the security forces from international criticism.
I don't think there's ethnic cleansing going on. It's a matter of people on different sides of a divide.
Pressure continues to mount against Suu Kyi, especially...
By the way, she also, like many war criminals, like Henry Kissinger and so many others, she also, this piece of shit, Aung Suu Kyi, who we'll hear about later, not only deny that a genocide is going on over and over again in media interviews, but she also got a Nobel Peace Prize, like Henry fucking Kissinger. They literally give the Nobel Peace Prize to war criminals. It's the inversion is insane of who if they ever give you a Nobel Peace Prize, or try to, I don't know, in case you're listening to this and you might be offered one day a Nobel Peace Prize, just know that means you did some crazy war crimes. So anyway, Aung Suu Kyi, war criminal and genocide denier.
When stories of survivors are released, like that of 26-year-old Jamalita, who fled Myanmar in an earlier wave of violence in 2016.
بعد نلاقي دلك دون روران مزارع رجيا عرش دوجا عرش بدين بواقرا لهنتون تريجن مهيدا باشي عاري لويوري دلا سكول بيرا مادي ميليتري هن اتينزون سكول تانغور ميليتري دور يا فلا يورو بعد دوجن ميليتري ماني عاري جندلا نجاتن غور جندلا نجاتن غوجي بعد عين غور تارا سوغ زت ساي عاري سوكا سايرو بدان بوشاماجي بعد عين بساب غور اماتيوري.
Jamalita tried to come forward with her story in Myanmar. She gave an interview to both the media and the government, who claimed there were discrepancies in her account. On the Facebook page for Suu Kyi's office, a post claimed her story was an example of fake rape. Within days of her interview with the journalists, locals warned Jamalita that the military was searching for her. As hundreds of thousands of Rohingya flee persecution in Myanmar, they're now met with resistance in Bangladesh. Local authorities are cutting off all Rohingya access to the rest of the country, essentially trapping them in the camps.
All these Bangladeshi police officers down here are pulling over these tuk-tuks. They're trying to make sure that Rohingya don't leave the camps and go into Cox's Bazar. Who are these people? Rohingya. And so where are you sending them? How have the Rohingya people affected your economy, affected your day to day?
মানে আমাদের মানে নৈত্য প্রয়োজনীয় যে দাম দ্বিগুণ হারে মানে কি চুরি ডাকাতি রাহাজানি বেড়ে যাচ্ছে যার ফলে মানে জনগণের ভোগান্তি বেশি
The Rohingya now outnumber the locals here, and Bangladeshi community leaders are increasingly frustrated by the impact this has had on their economy.
50,000 লোক যদি 8 লক্ষ লোকের ভাগ 8 লক্ষ লোক যদি আমরা 50,000 জনগণের উপরে পড়ে আপনাদেরকে ব্যাখ্যা করা প্রয়োজন আছে বলে আমি মনে করি না
একটা রোহিঙ্গা কাজ করতেছে 200 টাকা বা 250 টাকা তখন আমার কাজ করার ইয়ে হচ্ছে যে 500 টাকা কিন্তু আমি কাজ করার মতো শ্রমজীবী কোনো কাজে আমি পাচ্ছি না
So you see here how also a byproduct of ethnic cleansing and the genocide of the Rohingya people who are trying to save themselves, save their lives, save their loved ones' lives, and find shelter in Bangladesh. How this nationalist impulse also in Bangladesh to view immigrants as a net negative who are bad on the economy, quote unquote, or taking their jobs, quote unquote. You can see how that's also fueling more racism and more anti-people resentment. I was going to say anti-immigrant resentment, but these are people, right? These are people trying to live. But just sort of the scapegoating that goes on against, people who are genocide survivors. You can see how a lot of, the anti-immigrant sentiment that we see, even in the West here, sort of parallels the way the Rohingya people are treated as, immigrants who are coming to quote unquote take our jobs, who are making food prices more expensive, which is bullshit. Like that's all bullshit, right? But as soon as it's unfortunately a very common thing when people see quote unquote outsiders coming in, that they blame them for things not being good in their own lives. And it's funny because not funny. It's ironic because research and from all sorts of economic studies show that actually an increase in the population is a good thing, and immigrants are actually a net positive for every economy, because when you have more people coming into your town, for example, guess what they're doing? They're buying stuff from your town. They're going into your businesses to buy food. They open their own businesses, and those businesses lift up your other businesses. It's not a win-lose situation. It's a win-win. When that's why the towns in the United States that have done the best are the ones that are able to attract talented people and people in general to want to move there, like New York, for example. New York always attracts new people, transplants, quote unquote, to come in and move there and live there, and that lifts the economy up. It lifts everybody up. Actually, in the 70s, when a lot of people who lived in New York, white people, moved out into the suburbs, that's when the economy of New York City was experiencing decline. And what saved New York City at the time was actually immigrants coming in to, I guess, to the city, into the city to find work, to find jobs. And because those immigrants came to New York to sort of I don't want to say replace, because that feeds into a whole other gross mischaracterization of immigration, but because those immigrants came in and they worked in the city and they paid taxes, they actually saved the city from losing all of that income because of the white flight of the people moving to the suburbs. So immigration is a good thing. More immigration is a good thing. I'll die on that hill, because there's all of these forces and impulses that tell people that The reason why you're not earning a living wage is because of those immigrants or those trans people or woke or all of that shit. And all of that is bullshit to distract from the fact that the real people stealing your wages and stealing your jobs is, first of all, it's AI now, but it's also it's the ruling classes. It's the people making millions and millions of dollars by paying people less and less. It's not immigrants who are raising prices. It's not trans people. It's not the most marginalized people in society who pay taxes, who pay more taxes than fucking billionaires. Immigrants pay way more in taxes than Jeff Bezos ever will. So anyway, just throw that out there.
তাদের খরচ নাই, তারা যদি 100 টাকা পায় তাও তারা তাদের সাফিসিয়েন্ট, রোহিঙ্গাদেরকে তো অবশ্যই ফেরত দিতে হবে।
While these anti-Rohingya sentiments intensify, the Bangladeshi government is registering the Rohingya, which could lead to what they all fear, being sent back to the country where they've been hunted by the military and still have no citizenship or basic rights. This center right here is being run by the Bangladeshi military. All the signs in front are asking all Rohingya to come in, give their personal information and all their biometrics in order to receive aid. The concern, though, is that that information is actually being used to register and repatriate families back to Myanmar. What are you doing here today? Does it concern you that the information you're giving them is going to be used to repatriate your family? Government officials running the registration center denied our request for an official interview, but confirmed what we suspected. Will this information be used to repatriate these people?
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Do you feel like it's misleading them, telling them to register so they can receive aid when in fact the information is going to be used to repatriate them?
We are not misleading them.
No?
How are we misleading them?
Because they think that they're here to receive aid, and that's why they're registering. They don't think this information is being used to repatriate them.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they are thinking.
It doesn't matter what they're thinking.
What they are thinking.
But this is their lives, right? If they're repatriated, their lives could be at risk.
We are doing this to help them.
In February, Bangladesh turned over a list of more than 8,000 Rohingya, the first group meant to be sent back to Myanmar under the repatriation agreement. As people begin to talk about repatriation, what's the fear?
Myanmar government is a killer. A killer how can do the deal of repatriation? I'm clear, 100% sure that if Rohingya would be repatriated to the country, they would be kept in concentration camp.
Concentration camp?
Yeah, concentration camp.
These fears are not unfounded. Myanmar recently announced the construction of so-called transit camps, where repatriated Rohingya could be held against their will. The continued threat of repatriation has only exacerbated tensions among ARSA, the militant group whose attack reportedly first sparked this wave of violence. This 20-year-old soldier says he joined ARSA after he was tortured by the military, and he was there on the night of August 25th. Plans for repatriation are in the works. It was supposed to start today. Does ARSA have any plans to attack in protest of this? The future of the Rohingya remains more uncertain than ever. With the start of monsoon season, landslides, flooding, and waterborne diseases threaten to worsen the already dire conditions in the camps. Thousands of lives may be at risk, and pressure is building on the international community to step in and help. But so far, the US and EU have done little more than donate funds to Bangladesh and issue statements condemning Myanmar. and China and Russia have repeatedly blocked the UN Security Council from taking action. Vice co-founder Sabru Shalvi sat down with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to understand the role that the global community
That piece of shit.
should play in protecting the Rohingya from a potential genocide.
How bad is the Rohingya crisis right now in Myanmar, in Bangladesh?
Absolutely terrible. I have never seen a population.
That's what that piece of shit says about Palestinians in Gaza too. Oh, it's so terrible, so sad, so awful, so bad, so sad. The UN, I'm sorry, we need a UN body, but the fact it's been letting genocides just like run rampant and not stopping fucking any of them is a shame on all of us. The ICJ only 5 months ago started the trial of, Myanmar officials who were responsible for the genocide. 5 months ago. It's like you can commit genocide first and ask questions later. It's just the complicity of the entire world, the turning a blind eye to all of these atrocities. It disgusts me.
So discriminated in the world. You had tens and tens of villages burned to the ground, violations of human rights that are absolutely intolerable.
And what the fuck are you doing about it, Antonio Gutierrez? Piece of shit.
Rape in horrible numbers, and this is the worst crisis we are facing in today's world. It is essential that the international community is able to tell the authorities in Myanmar, especially the military authorities, that
it is essential that we tell them, hey, behave. It is imperative that all of us come together and say, hey, stop that. We must tell them to do better.
Violence needs to stop, and that the people that fled...
It needs to stop. It must stop. Please stop it. Fucking piece of shit. I get madder and madder every time I saw that piece of shit. Sorry, excuse for a human being saying, oh, the horrors in Gaza need to stop. Everybody must come to the table and stop the violence on all sides. Fucking these fucking people.
The right to return, and the right to return in safety, in dignity, voluntarily, and that conditions need to be created for them to be well received.
But is anyone listening to you?
Well, there is people listening, but there is not yet a unanimous approach to this crisis.
Is anyone listening to you? Well, some people are. Rot in hell, Antonio Gutierrez. Rot in fucking hell. And I hope the ghosts of all the people who died under your watch as a UN, whatever the fuck you are. I don't even remember. Is he Secretary General? Whatever the fucking title you got. Instead of resigning and saying this is a disgrace, all of these people that were not helping, that were killed, that were genocided under my watch, instead of fucking resigning, you're just out there doing press conferences talking about how everyone just needs to do better and be better. I hope the ghosts of every single person you genocided torture you in the afterlife. I hope they torture, every single one of them takes turns torturing you in the afterlife. You piece of shit. Rot in hell.
Allowing the international community to speak with one voice and to tell the authorities in Myanmar, stop.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit about a little bit of background to the genocide. I also wanted to share this article from the BBC to sort of go over the rights that the Rohingya have been denied for decades. So let's see this. And this was actually from 2009. What drives the Rohingya to sea? The dramatic testimony from survivors of a draconian Thai military policy of towing Rohingya boat people out to sea and leaving them there has drawn international attention to the plight of one of the world's most oppressed people. And Thailand, of course, is a Buddhist majority country. So what is it that is driving many Rohingya, a Muslim minority, from the westernmost part of Burma, Myanmar, to flee in rickety boats in the hopes of finding refuge elsewhere? The term Rohingya refers to a distinct Muslim ethnic group living in northern Rakhine State along the border with Bangladesh. They are thought to be descended from Arab and other Muslim traders who traveled and settled there more than 1,000 years ago. They speak a dialect of Bengali similar to that spoken in Cox's Bazar region of Bangladesh. There are perhaps 1 million living there, but maybe as many more living overseas, mainly in Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, and Malaysia. And again, this article was from 2009, so before the most recent wave of violence and ethnic cleansing took place. There are thought to be hundreds of thousands less Rohingya people now in Burma. Harassed and beaten. Northern Rakhine State is one of the poorest and most isolated in Myanmar. But the burdens imposed on the Rohingya by Myanmar's military rulers make the situation a whole lot worse than other people living in the area. Economic hardship and chronic poverty prevents many thousands of people in North Rakhine State from gaining food security, says Chris Kay, the country director for the UN's World Food Program, who visited there 2 months ago. Many do not have land rights or access to farmland to grow food, and the restrictions and limitations on the movement of people, goods, and commodities places additional stress on people's livelihoods opportunities. For a start, the Rohingya are denied citizenship under Myanmar's 1982 citizenship law, which leaves them out of the 135 ethnic groups officially recognized by the state. The official view of the Myanmar military is that they are illegal immigrants from Bangladesh or their descendants. Rohingya trying to leave Myanmar are often harassed and beaten by the Myanmar security forces, but then allowed to leave and told never to return. They are also unable to travel freely. The military demands that they obtain an official permit even to travel to the next town. It is almost impossible for them to get permission to travel outside of northern Rakhine. Now, the parallels to Palestinians here, in every aspect, are frightening. It's frightening. The denial of citizenship because of ethnic identity, the idea that according to Myanmar national citizenship law, that they are just considered not people. All of that systemic discrimination, denial of the right to farmland, the fact that Myanmar is making Buddhist settlers come in and take the area and cultivate the areas that the Rohingya were expelled from. All of that is a symptom of one giant disease called racism that we see all over the world, but unfortunately now also and have always seen in Palestine. Sorry, I'll get back to the article. Marriage restrictions. Rohingya are subjected to routine forced labor. The amount of time they have to give varies, but Chris Liwa at the Arakan Project says that typically a Rohingya man will have to give up 1 day a week to work on military or government projects and 1 night for sentry duty. This reduces the time they have to earn a living for their families. Myanmar Buddhists living in the area are usually not required to do this. The Rohingya have also lost a lot of arable land, which has been confiscated by the military to give to Buddhist settlers from elsewhere in Myanmar. One of the most bizarre forms of discrimination imposed on the Rohingya is that they must get official permission to get married. Like all other documents they must obtain, these give opportunities for officials to extort money from them, and the marriage approval can take 2 years or more. And of course, the idea behind denying and making marriage complicated, difficult, and impossible is, besides torturing those people, it's also to deny them the ability to have children, and which from a racist perspective of the ultra-nationalist Buddhists is, oh no, if they have children, it's the same with Israeli racism against Palestinians, right? Like if they have children, they might outnumber us, and we can't have that. So restrictions on marriage are really restrictions on their ability to live and have children that have lives. Because in their racist mindset, racist ultra-nationalist Buddhist mindset, they're trying to prevent them from having children. I mean, the analogies to all the other genocides that we know of in the world is sickening. Couples get caught getting married or sleeping together without this approval can be arrested. The Arakan Project has documented a number of cases where the men have been jailed, in one case for 7 years. When they get married, they are required to sign a commitment not to have more than 2 children. So this is sorry, that's just really hard to make sense of. Camp squalor. This litany of abuse and harassment makes the Rohingya a downtrodden underclass even in Myanmar, one of the world's most repressive and impoverished states. This is why 200,000 fled to Bangladesh in 1978 and another 250,000 between 1991 and 92. There has been a steady stream into Bangladesh since then, but the numbers heading out into the Andaman Sea by boat have increased sharply over the past 2 to 3 years. Again, this is from 2009. Conditions for the Rohingya in Bangladesh are grim. Around 28,000 live in the 2 officially recognized camps, which get some assistance from the UN, but 200,000 more eke out an existence outside the camps in a desperately poor part of Bangladesh with no official documentation and no prospects of employment. In the past, they have made their way to the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia, in search of work, as many Bangladeshis do. They could do that because it was relatively easy to obtain Bangladeshi passports, but heightened security concerns in Bangladesh and Saudi Arabia over quote-unquote Islamic extremism have made it far more difficult for the stateless Rohingya to travel. So, just to reiterate, the Rohingya people are indigenous to Myanmar, but they're stateless. They're denied citizenship by Myanmar authorities because of their ethnic background to this day. Okay. Let's see. One other article from Time Magazine, and it's from 2016. Why Burma is trying to stop people from using the name of its persecuted Muslim minority. And this article sort of reminded me of, not reminded me, but sort of the parallel is evident of how Israel refuses to call Palestinians Palestinian. Instead, they call them Arab, right? They find all of these other terms to deny Palestinians' right to exist as people. So let's read a little bit here. Myanmar's newly installed government is trying to get foreign diplomats to refrain from using the name Rohingya in the latest blow to the country's heavily persecuted Muslim group. The move is an apparent bow to pressure from a small but influential ultra-nationalist movement that refuses to recognize the rights of the Rohingya people to belong in Burma. A spokeswoman for Burma's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, IISO, tells Time that the government is not objecting to the term Rohingya, but requesting not to use it. Are you hearing this shit? We're not objecting to the term Rohingya. We just ask people or request people not to use it. Okay, dipshit. The suggestion was made during private courtesy calls between Aung San Suu Kyi in her role as Minister of Foreign Affairs and the U.S. Ambassador to Myanmar, Scott Marcial, after the embassy had been targeted by Burmese over its use of the word. Protesters see the term, which means a person of Rohang, the old Muslim term for what is now Arakan State in western Burma, Myanmar, as conferring historical legitimacy on the Muslim presence in the country that is also known as Myanmar. Though the historical origins of the term Rohingya are muddy, many Rohingya families have lived in western Burma for generations, and the majority choose this term to describe themselves. However, during the 2014 census, the Rohingya were forced to identify themselves as, quote, Bengali, the official term for them, or they would not be registered. They are not recognized as one of the 135 official ethnic groups in the country, and nearly all of the 1.1 million Rohingya are denied citizenship and basic rights. The UN considers the Rohingya, who reside near Myanmar's border with Bangladesh, to be among the world's most persecuted minorities, but in most of Burma, they are viewed as dangerous interlopers. In western Arakan State, a spate of deadly riots beginning in 2012 between the local Buddhist population and the Muslim Rohingya claimed more than 100 lives and displaced some 140,000 people, mostly Rohingya. Many are still confined to squalid camps where they are denied freedom of movement, education, and healthcare. Conditions are so dire that tens of thousands have fled by boat, undertaking perilous voyages in the hands of traffickers in the hope of finding refuge in Muslim-majority Malaysia or other Southeast Asian countries. While the international community has repeatedly urged the government to end persecution and allow the group to call themselves Rohingya if they wish, last week's advisory signals that the country's new government, led by Nobel laureate Suu Kyi, is not inclined toward concessions and will continue to scrub the term from official usage. And again, Suu Kyi won a Nobel fucking Peace Prize. Many Buddhists believe the name Rohingya is a political claim that they cannot agree to, according to Ronan Lee, a researcher and former Australian lawmaker who has conducted extensive studies in the Arakan State. You see, so they don't even want them to use their actual name for their group, Rohingya. They're forcing them to call themselves Bengali. They're not Bengali. They're indigenous to Myanmar. But this idea to force them to call themselves Bengali is to pave the way for ethnic cleansing into Bangladesh, to sort of say, oh, you called yourself Bengali on this census and you're Muslim? Well, why don't we push you to Muslim-majority Bangladesh? You called yourself Bengali. When the Zionist state expelled more than 750,000 people in 1948, they expelled them, expelled them into Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, all of the neighboring countries to Palestine, to sort of say, oh, you speak Arabic, you'll just go there. Go there. You'll make a new life. Good luck. It's the most racist way to view people. So that's a little bit about that. Now to talk a little bit about Nobel Peace Prize winner and war criminal, Aung San Suu Kyi. And to maybe lighten the mood a little bit, I saw this video by a great YouTube channel I really love called Film Cow. He makes incredible animations that also have kind of a political background. Again, one of my favorite channels. You should subscribe to it if you can. He's also the creator behind Llamas with Hats and Charlie the Unicorn, beloved animated creations. So this is a stream he made. Sorry, I'm not smiling because of the subject. I'm smiling because he found a way to have a humorous take on something that is very depressing, like the Rohingya genocide, where he created like a fake trial, pretend trial for Aung San Suu Kyi, and sort of animated her in the middle of the trial, sort of reacting to the genocide charges. And I thought it was amusing because I think the way he satired it and satired the way politicians conduct genocide denial was spot on. So let's listen to it together.
Question for Aung San Suu Kyi. Did you do it? Did you?
So, sorry, I forgot to mention, what he's asking her is, did you kill Roger Rabbit? And, you know, they get into the genocide of the Rohingya people later on. But listen to how she responds to the question of, did you kill Roger Rabbit, Aung Suu Kyi?
Kill Roger Rabbit? Did you kill Roger Rabbit? I condemn hate of any kind. Oh, sure. Yeah, that sounds very noble, to condemn hate of any kind. Did you kill Roger Rabbit? The allegations that I killed Roger Rabbit are incomplete and misleading.
So that sentence, when I first heard it, I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but that killed me. Because it was so exactly the way politicians like literally respond to accusations. Like the way they say yes without saying yes. Like, you know, so her saying like, oh, the accusations are just incomplete and misleading, but definitely true. Just incomplete and misleading. Okay.
What's incomplete and misleading about them? Did I kill Roger Rabbit? If I say yes, that wouldn't be very truthful because I've killed all sorts of people. I don't fully understand your argument here. Are you saying that you don't remember if you killed Roger Rabbit? No. Let me put it a different way. How could I have killed Roger Rabbit when I encouraged him to be alive while I killed him? See, I understand all of those words individually. I'm just not sure what they mean when you put them together exactly like that. Well, there you go. Do I go? Yes, I think we're done here. We are definitely not done. Maybe we should come back to the Roger Rabbit thing in a bit, and let's instead go over your political career. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go over your political career. I'm very proud of my accomplishments, although it has taken a lot of sacrifice. Yeah, there is a lot to be proud of. Let's see. You were inspired by Buddhist philosophies of nonviolence. You helped found the National League for Democracy, one of Myanmar's most influential pro-democracy movement. And I was arrested for it. Offered my freedom if I left the country, but I refused. Very noble. You devoted yourself to Buddhist thought. You wrote a book, The Voice of Hope, about your fight against authoritarianism and your love and compassion for humanity. I'm a very compassionate person. Let's see, there was a general election. You would have assumed the office of Prime Minister, but the results were nullified by the military, and you were placed on house arrest again. You're just reading from my Wikipedia page, aren't you? You got me. I did, yes. I did just print out your Wikipedia page, yeah. Yeah, you got me. What comes next? All right, let's see. What comes next on the Wikipedia page? The Nobel Prize for Peace. Oh, yes, that. It was given to me for my nonviolent struggle for democracy and human rights. Yes, the Nobel Committee said, and I quote, from Wikipedia, the Norwegian Nobel Committee wishes to honor this woman for her unflagging efforts and to show its support for the many people throughout the world who are striving to attain democracy, human rights, and ethnic conciliation by peaceful means. That's me. I'm all about all of that. Your next decade was spent fighting for human rights and democracy, all while being placed on house arrest over and over again until 2010. I've spent much of my life a political prisoner. I gotta be honest, by this point, on your Wikipedia page, by this point, it definitely seemed like I must have the wrong person. How could such a person have killed Roger Rabbit? It doesn't make sense, does it? Then we get to your years as state counselor of Myanmar and the Rohingya genocide section. Oh, you don't need to read that. Why is that? Why is that, Aung San Suu Kyi? Why? Anyone can edit Wikipedia. Some hacker probably made all that genocide. It was a hacker. It was a hacker who put in the genocide section on your Wikipedia page. It was a hacker. Let's go through a few snippets. Aung San Suu Kyi has denied the allegations of ethnic cleansing, totally normal thing to have to deny. You then claim that the genocide wasn't a genocide because violence was happening, and I quote from Wikipedia, on both sides. You again denied the genocide in a 2013 interview with the BBC, claiming that the violence was a result of a climate of fear, claiming that the, and then you later complained about the interview, saying, and I'm going to quote again from Wikipedia, no one told me I was going to be interviewed by a Muslim. I don't want to be interviewed by a Muslim while I'm doing a big genocide against Muslims. That's super awkward. Yeah, I'm sure it is very awkward. The Dalai Lama publicly and privately asked you 3 times to do something about the genocide of the Rohingya. Dozens of peace awards you had been given from around the world were revoked. Britain's International Development Committee released a report that concludes you're complicit in the crimes against the Rohingya. Who's even on these committees? What's a committee anyway? Look, I'm a simple void creature with a cat-girl face. But I feel like genocide is incompatible with a Buddhist philosophy of non-violence. It's not if you compartmentalize. If you compartmentalize, I want freedom and peace for all people. Also, some people are not people and should be exterminated. Did you kill Roger Rabbit? Roger Rabbit's not a person, he's a rabbit. Also, yes, I beat him to death with a desk lamp. Why a desk lamp? Why'd you kill Roger Rabbit with a desk lamp? It's what was on my desk when I decided it was time for Roger Rabbit to die. And why did you decide that? Everyone's got to go sometime. A woman of many contradictions. I guess we'll adjourn now, so I can deliver my verdict. Yeah, let's. I think I've heard enough. We got a confession. Let's go to the verdict.
And it says here on the graphic that Film Cow made, again, great channel, is a fun fact. Bono wrote the U2 song Walk On as a tribute to this mass murderer. The West was like drooling all over her fucking face, and she's a genocider. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's see the verdict. If Aung San's non-violent genocidist Aung San Suu Kyi, let's see if she was declared guilty on the fake animated fictional trial. Guilty. Guilty. So she hasn't faced justice by the ICJ, but at least in the animated world, we have sentenced her to lifetime imprisonment. Whatever is a just, I don't know that there is a just punishment for war criminals. I really don't. But at least she was found guilty. And I really appreciate that channel for trying to sort of spin, to sort of sneak in like, little tidbits about history through a humorous lens. But what Film Cow made the fictional Aung San Suu Kyi say of like, I like freedom and peace for all people. And it's everything that, that was mentioned about her writing books, about nonviolence and democracy and all that shit. All of that is, she actually did that shit. That's what makes it so much worse. And when she said, when the fictional Aung San Suu Kyi said, it's just that some people are not people, and that's why they need to be genocided. That's the logic of genociders, is the sort of first, and one of the steps is first deny those people even exist. So that's why we saw the military commander in Myanmar in the Vice video saying, Rohingya people don't even live in Myanmar. They don't exist. And then the efforts by the Myanmar government to say, on the census, you can't call yourself Rohingya. You have to call yourself Bengali. It's a way of sort of, the denial of existence is the first step towards committing genocide. That's why the Zionist state refuses to let Palestinians define themselves as Palestinian. They call them Arabs. So, another thing that was mentioned in this mock trial, shall we say, is Aung San Suu Kyi's BBC interview, where so I wanted for people who weren't familiar with it to sort of get a little taste of what that was, what that was like when she was interviewed on the BBC, because that was a hot mess. That was a hot fucking mess. And listen to how she was responding to, the charges of how Myanmar was treating its Rohingya population and the denial of that, and how fake polite she sounds, right, when she's saying all of these genocidal things.
Amid all the positive developments that we've seen in the last couple of years in your country, there are also some very troubling ones. And I'm thinking particularly of this wave of ethnic violence that has targeted Burma's Muslim community. What is your view of what's been happening there? Some people are calling it ethnic cleansing.
No, it's not ethnic cleansing. It's...
Right away, you see, she could have said, yeah, that's the Muslim minority is being targeted by the state. It's horrendous. At the time, I think she was serving in the opposition of the Myanmar government. Instead, she's saying, no. What you're calling it is not what it is.
It's a new problem, and yet it's linked to old problems as well. I would like to make the point that there are many moderate Muslims in Burma who have been well integrated into our society.
There are many moderate Muslims who are well integrated. It's just those non-moderate, unintegrated Muslims that are a problem. That's what she's saying.
But these problems arose last year, and I think this is due to fear on both sides. And this is what the world needs to understand, that the fear is not just on the side of the Muslims, but on the side of the Buddhists as well.
You would accept
both sides have fear of each other. Both sides. It's both sides.
Wouldn't you, that the vast majority of the victims of the violence have been Muslims? There is evidence that they have been systematically targeted.
Muslims have been targeted, but also Buddhists have been subjected to violence. But there's fear on both sides, and this is what is leading to all these troubles. And we would like the world to understand.
This is so fucking evil. This is so fucking evil because it's couched in this like soft-spoken voice. And it's exactly how American politicians talk when they talk about Palestinian lives lost and how heartbroken they are. But also there's the other side. We have to think about both sides.
Understand that the reaction of the Buddhists is also based on fear. You, I think, will accept that there's a perception that Muslim power, global Muslim power, is very great. And certainly that is the perception in many parts of the world and in our country too.
She said global Muslim power being like a frightening factor? Is that justification for killing them and expelling them? What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? She won a Nobel Peace Prize.
That Muslim power, global Muslim power, is very great. And certainly that is the perception in many parts of the world and in our country too. So
When
there's
you
this
talk about fear on both sides, you would accept, though, that the scale of the suffering is not equal on both sides. There are something like 140,000 Burmese Muslims displaced from their homes and living in camps. They're the ones who are bearing the brunt of this violence.
I think there are many, many Buddhists who have also left the country for various reasons. And there are many Buddhists who are in refugee camps for various reasons. You will find them in Thailand, very many of them, and you will find them scattered all over the world. This is a result of our sufferings under a dictatorial regime. And I think if you live under a dictatorship for many years, people don't learn to trust one another. A dictatorship generates
Does she sound to you like she's very concerned about the 140,000 people at the time that have been this Muslim Rohingya people of Myanmar who are denied citizenship by law, denied rights by law, by her fucking government? Do you think she sounds concerned about their well-being and welfare?
A climate of distrust.
But people have to
and
take
suspicion.
responsibility for their actions.
Of course,
don't
this
they?
is what the government has to do to make sure that there's accountability. This
And
is
it doesn't
why.
seem as if the government is making people accountable at the moment. I'm thinking
Yes.
particularly of the Buddhist monk Wiratu, who used to be in prison but was then let out, and now he's a very popular, influential figure. He goes around spouting what really is hate speech, talking about Muslims being like dogs and blaming them for stealing Burma's women and things like that. Do you condemn that kind of hate speech?
I condemn hate of any kind, and you're right with
I condemn hate of any kind.
You say that the government has not been playing a responsible part in this. And I would very much like to urge you and others to ask the government what their policy is and what they're trying to do or what they're doing or not doing to improve the situation. We have said from the very beginning that rule of law is essential. It's imperative, because before people can sit down and sort out the differences, they have to feel safe. And if they think that they're going to be killed in their beds, they're not going to talk about harmony or learning to understand one another.
See how she's not naming the persecuted minority as the victims? The victims is like a generic term that could be applied to the Buddhists, could be applied to the Rohingya people. You just have to kind of like choose your own adventure from her answers, non-answers. But you can see how she was like, she sounds like a politician who was well groomed by the West to talk out of all of her holes, right? Shitting out of all sides of her mouth, all of the holes she has, just shitting platitudes, like she was made in the same factory as Pete Buttigieg. You know, people have to trust each other, and when there's no trust, then people can't be safe, and people have to feel safe. And we have to make sure we have accountability. We're going to open an investigation to really, really see what's going on. We are going to write a report.
So I would say that instead of asking us, the members of the opposition, what we feel about it, what we intend to do about it, because you must see that we are not in a position to do the sort of things that a government.
Deflecting now. I'm not in power, I'm in the opposition. What the fuck do you want me to do?
Government must do. You should ask the present government of Burma what their policy is, how they are going about this problem, how they intend to deal with it.
She's made it into a political football, you see. Throwing it at the opposition. Oh, it's their problem. They're the ones in charge. I'm just in the opposition. What the fuck? What do you want me to say? I'm not in charge. But also violence on all sides. I condemn hate of any kind.
Personally, what have been the difficult things to adjust to in the course of the last couple of years for you? Your life has changed immeasurably.
Quite frankly, I don't think that I'm adjusting to anything very extraordinary. New situations, but no more extraordinary than the ones that I've had to face over the last 25 years.
But picking up the pieces of family relationships with friends, having contact that you were denied for so long.
Real friends, you can always pick up at any time. The friends that are not so true, they fell away a long time ago when it was dangerous to be close to me. But then on the other hand, some come back, and I accept that. I accept that you can't expect people to be outspoken or brave all the time.
Outspoken and brave? You're none of those things, Aung Suu Kyi. So this interview we just watched with the BBC is from 2013. Aung San Suu Kyi was not happy about that interview. Can you guess why? I'll give you a guess. You know what? I'll give you the answer. This is an article from Vox, 2016, so 3 years later after that interview. Aung San Suu Kyi said, "No one told me I was going to be interviewed by a Muslim." So she was pissed because the interviewer happened to be Muslim and no one told her. She thinks she was unfairly targeted with reasonable questions about the systematic discrimination, decades-long discrimination by her government against the Rohingya people. In October 2013, one of the most celebrated political dissidents in the world sat down for an interview with BBC presenter Michal Hussein, and it didn't go great. Aung San Suu Kyi was, at that point, still in the process of transitioning from a Nobel Peace Prize-winning political prisoner of Myanmar's military government. She was kept under house arrest until 2010 to the country's de facto leader. After being freed as part of her country's opening, her political party won a number of seats in limited 2012 parliamentary elections. Later, in November 2015, her political party would win a landslide in the country's first real elections in decades. While she herself is barred from becoming president, she picked a close ally and is widely considered the real power behind the newly democratic government. As of October 2013, that was still 2 years off, but it seemed clear that Aung San Suu Kyi was becoming rapidly more important in her country's politics. So Hussein, rightly, pressed Aung San Suu Kyi on a political challenge she was not handling well. Acts of large-scale ethnic cleansing, often abetted or encouraged by government forces against an ethnic minority known as the Rohingya, who are also Muslim. For all of her quote-unquote heroism in fighting for democracy in Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi has always been bad on this issue, decrying the violence but also refusing to acknowledge its scale or the government's role, often taking a baffling both-side stance. And she was rarely worse than in her interview with Hussein, where she became defensive, downplayed the crisis, and appeared to put some blame on the victims. They were just not moderate enough. They weren't quote-unquote integrated enough. That interview again made news on Friday when British media reported that, according to a new book on Aung San Suu Kyi, she was so angered by the interview's focus on Rohingya that afterwards she was heard muttering, presumably to an aide, "No one told me I was going to be interviewed by a Muslim." The comment is being treated as further proof that Aung San Suu Kyi may not be the beacon of hope the world had thought her to be, that her weakness on the Rohingya crisis, in addition to being terrible in its own right, is symptomatic of larger problems with how she thinks about important issues of diversity and tolerance. I mean, she talked about like the global Muslim threat or the perception of global Muslim power. She's obviously an Islamophobe. I mean, to serve in the Myanmar government, I suppose you have to be. And how she refused to condemn the ultra-nationalist Buddhist monk who called the Rohingya people dogs, saying they're coming for our women, all of these racist tropes. She didn't have a lot of condemnation for that. I condemn hate of any kind. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So no wonder she was not happy. She was not happy. Okay. I'm not going to read the next sentence because it's some stupid apologia. So, anyway. The allegations against Aung San Suu Kyi are incomplete and misleading. Right? Anyway. So that was a little bit about the Myanmar genocide against the Rohingya people. I hope it was insightful. I hope you were able to do some things while listening in. No one joined me tonight, as usual. Not even Ryan Grimm. Ryan, what's going on? I thought we were friends. Why leave me to my lonesome? Hillary, not even you. So sad. Aung San Suu Kyi, if you have internet access, don't watch this stream. Don't watch this. But I hope I was able to, I guess, provide a perspective about the Rohingya genocide and the parallels to what we're seeing now in Gaza to sort of hopefully see the connection, the through lines, the international ineptitude by organizations like the UN to actually stand up for justice or for people's rights. I hope we're able to, those of us who survive whatever climate disaster is going to befall all of us, I hope that we are able to build an anti-racist society globally. Racism is a scourge on this earth. I think it's the worst thing about humans, honestly. Because animals don't discriminate based on race, right? That's why animals are superior. And if animals wanted to take the reins from humans, I'm all for it. I would vote for that. If any species of any animals want to take over from humans, I would be the human defector who's helping animals take over the reins. Trust me. And again, this is a PSA that if you live near wildlife or have friendly critters in your area, to leave a bowl, and if you're able to, of course, to leave out a bowl of water every night for our wildlife friends. Wherever you live, they really appreciate it. Sometimes wildlife don't have access to a fresh water source, so you'd be keeping them alive, and they deserve our help much more than just leaving out water. And but that's a small thing you can do that I would encourage if you're able to. And yeah, I hope this was useful. Thank you for joining me. I should be back here tomorrow. If you have any clips or ideas of things I should be reacting to that have to do with Palestine, or the one-state solution, or Myanmar and the genocide in Myanmar, or other genocides that you might know about more than me and be educated about, and you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear from you. Just leave it in the comments. Thank you for all of those who have joined me recently. I appreciate you. Thank you for those of you who liked whatever this is. As I said, this channel is not monetized. This channel will never be monetized. No channel I ever have I only have this channel. No channel I ever open in the future potentially will ever be monetized, because that's not why I'm doing this. It's just a hobby. It's why I do it. Hobby, quote unquote. It's why I do it at nighttime when I have a little bit of time, and my cats are sound asleep. So thank you again. Hope this was useful. I'll see you tomorrow. And free Palestine from the river to the sea.